My son, Zach, accidentally opened one of the lucky stars from my husband Dylan's bookshelf. I took the star from him, carefully folding it back into place, but on the inside, I discovered a line of delicate handwriting. The kiss on a midsummer night when I was 18, witnessed only by the moonlight and the fireflies forever hidden in the dark. July 23rd, 2011. 2011, it was the second year Dylan and I were together. My hands trembled as I crouched on the floor, unfolding another lucky star. The best back-to-school gift when I was 19 was him skipping class to be with me. October 9th, 2012. In 2012, Dylan told me something had happened at home, delaying his return to campus by 5 days. The most secret happiness at 27 was him leaving her in the delivery room to be with me. October 15th, 2020. That day was Zach's birthday. I had an emergency C-section after hours of labor, suffering twice to bring him into this world. I hemorrhaged right after and was rushed to the ICU. It turns out that when Dylan said work kept him away that day, he was actually with the owner of these lucky stars. I stared at the jar of lucky stars on Dylan's bookshelf, but my vision blurred with tears. That jar of lucky stars, it was a gift from Dylan to Zach and me after we were discharged from the hospital. He told me he'd heard that 100 lucky stars could grant a wish, and he wished for Zach and me to be healthy at the time. I cherished it so much, afraid I might accidentally damage it, so I placed it carefully on Dylan's bookshelf. Even when I cleaned Dylan's study, I would always take extra care to dust off those stars. Turns out, it was never a symbol of a wish for our family's health. It was a monument to Dylan's betrayal. From 2011 to 2020, it spanned our entire youth, the best years of our lives, and the owner of that handwriting, I wasn't a stranger to her. In the fall of 2014, Jennifer suddenly fell ill at university, losing her hearing overnight. Dylan was studying abroad as an exchange student and couldn't return. His eyes were red when he begged me to go to Jennifer's city and take care of her. I took a full 2 weeks off work, staying in a city I didn't know. By Jennifer's side, panicked, short-tempered, and fragile as she was. I still remember what Dylan said back then. Jennifer and I only jokingly called each other siblings back in middle school, but my parents only have me. I've always envied people with brothers and sisters. I see Jennifer as my real sister. Because of that one sentence, I treated her like family. When Jennifer wouldn't get out of bed in the mornings, I went out and bought her favorite breakfast, making sure she finished every bite. When she needed hyperbaric oxygen therapy, I personally took her there, waited outside until she was done, and brought her back. When she was on an 4 drip and kept dozing off, I forced myself to stay awake, watching each bag empty, one by one. In the afternoons, when Jennifer wanted to sneak out for a walk, I always placed myself between her and the road, afraid something might happen to her. On good days, Jennifer would text me, "Rachel, I like you." There was a helplessness in her reliance on me, as if I was the only anchor she had while standing at the edge of a world that had suddenly turned silent. What started as a favor for Dylan gradually became genuine affection. I cared for her like a real sister. She had to take a lot of bitter medicine, and every time she swallowed it, she would scrunch her face and stay silent. Over time, I got into the habit of carrying a few of her favorite milk candies in my pocket. After she finished her medicine, I would quietly slip one into her hand. Once the candy melted in her mouth, she'd smile sweetly. "Rachel, you're my favorite." I would joke back, typing in our chat, "Even more than Dylan?" She would hold my hand and nod, her gaze full of trust. Even after her hearing recovered, Jennifer never gave up her habit of acting spoiled around me. She would secretly complain to me at dusk when the cafeteria didn't serve her favorite pasta. When we passed a store, she'd casually buy me a little keychain too, like a sister would. I wonder when I cared for her with all my heart, when I sent her little gifts just because. What was she thinking? Was she laughing about me with Dylan behind my back, calling me a fool? I put the jar of lucky stars back in its place, a cruel symbol of irony, restoring it as if nothing had happened. Then, using a hairpin, I pried open the locked drawer of Dylan's desk. Just as I expected, there they were, stacks of letters. I couldn't stop the bitter smile creeping onto my face. Writing letters had always been Dylan and Jennifer's favorite thing to do back in high school. Their schools were only a half-hour bike ride apart, yet they still exchanged letter after letter, pouring their hearts onto paper. I was so naive back then. Dylan and I already had an unspoken connection, yet whenever he asked me to mail a letter to Jennifer since he was stuck in the dorms, I always did it without question. Taking each one to the post office myself, my hand trembled as I pulled out a sheet of paper. The handwriting was unmistakably familiar, and at the bottom, the date read, April 23rd, 2009. A younger Jennifer, pretending to be sorrowful, had written, "I think no relationship is more reliable than being siblings. I don't want to be your first love, and I don't want to be your girlfriend. Let's just be brother and sister." Clearly, they had already understood each other's feelings back then. And had known nothing at all. Panic surged through me as I grabbed another letter, dated March 11th, 2010. That was the time when Dylan's mother, Alice, had brought him lunch and briefly met me. Jennifer's handwriting was bold and domineering. Why does Alice think Rachel is too short and skinny? If Alice saw me, she'd definitely be pleased. So, Alice had looked down on me behind my back and Jennifer knew all about it, and Dylan. Naturally, he must have compared me to Jennifer, thinking I wasn't good enough. I flipped through letter after letter. The sun had long since been swallowed by layers of dusky clouds, a murky gloom spreading across the sky, an unsettling mirror of my own heart. The bottom of the drawer. Beneath the pile of letters, I found a thick stack of receipts. Without exception, they were all for Barbie dolls. Some for hundreds, some for thousands, so many that the stack of purchase records felt heavy in my hand. My fingers shook as I unlocked my phone, but my tears kept splattering onto the screen, making it impossible to open. Frustrated, I wiped the screen against my clothes again and again until it finally unlocked. I opened Jennifer's Instagram. There it was, photo after photo, piles of Barbie dolls stacked together. The cruelest part? I had liked those posts. I had unknowingly given a thumbs up to Dylan's endless, lingering devotion to her, and last year, for Jennifer's birthday, I had gifted her a Barbie doll myself. Dylan had even casually remarked back then, "She has a lot of Barbies already. She's probably collected that one." I see now. All those Barbies, she had been the one collecting them for her all along. I went back to the receipts, studying them closely. In 2011 alone, Dylan had spent over $5,000 on Barbie dolls for Jennifer. That same year, I had worked for 6 months handing out flyers just to save enough money for a trip to San Francisco with Dylan. The purchase record stretched from 2011 all the way to the present, the most recent one dated May of this year. That same month, I had hesitated over signing Zach up for an English class because the fee was an overwhelming $3,000. I went back and forth, wondering if we could afford it. That exact time, Dylan had bought Jennifer 2 more Barbie sets. He was a platinum member at some toy store, yet ever since Zach was born, not once had Dylan bought him a toy. Not a single one. All of Dylan's endless, unreserved love had always belonged to Jennifer. Once Pandora's box is opened, everything lurking in the shadows comes pouring out. Even back in 2014, when I was taking care of Jennifer, when we were the closest we'd ever been, Dylan came back from abroad and went straight to Jennifer's city. He stayed there with her for 5 days. I found an old photo album at the very bottom of Dylan's drawer. An amusement park. Dylan and Jennifer were grinning sweetly at the camera, their faces lit with joy, the date scribbled on the back of the photo. My birthday. I remembered Jennifer calling me that day, her voice soft and playful, saying she wanted the first bite of my birthday cake. Since she was in another city, I ordered a cake from a local bakery and had it delivered to her dorm. I even wondered why she hadn't texted me afterward, whining a cute "thank you," like she always did. Now I knew. Jennifer, who was laughing at an amusement park that day, never received my cake. And Dylan. He was even more ridiculous. He had messaged me, full of regret, saying he couldn't fly back home to celebrate with me, but he'd make it up to me with a special birthday once he returned. In reality, the two of them were already in the same city, hand in hand, cheek to cheek, riding roller coasters and playing games while spinning lies to keep me in the dark. How thoughtful. The man I trusted with my whole heart, me husband, and the girl I once adored like a sister, Jennifer. I took pictures of everything, the letters, the receipts, the photos, carefully putting everything back just the way I found it. Then, I sent Zach to my mom's house. When I got back home, I sank into the couch and opened both Jennifer and Dylan's Instagram accounts. I scrolled and scrolled, going back years, a stray hair tie peeking from the edge of a photo. The same cake appearing in both their feeds, captured from different angles. I had rarely used Instagram all these years, so I had been blissfully unaware. But now I had only one question. If they were so deeply connected, so clearly in love, why drag me into this? I wasn't the type to cling to someone who didn't want me. In fact, it was Dylan who had pursued me relentlessly. From the first confession to making things official, from proposing to planning the wedding, every single step was thoughtful, serious, and sincere. Looking back now, it all felt like swallowing a fly, disgusting and unbearable. How dare they? How do they toy with me like this? That evening, Dylan came home, just like always. In his left hand was my favorite little cake. In his right, a bouquet of lavender because he knew I loved the scent. Was Zach acting up today? Dylan asked with a gentle smile. He video called me earlier, said you looked upset when you dropped him off at Joan's house. Just like every other night, I noticed my mood. He tried to surprise me, to make me happy, but this time, I knew nothing could ever be the same again. Maybe it never was. Maybe this was all just a beautifully wrapped lie, a cake that looked perfect on the outside but was already rotting on the inside. Dylan noticed me staring blankly at him. Carefully, he set the cake and lavender down, then went to the bathroom to wash his hands. When he came back, he wrapped his arms gently around me from behind. Baby, are you upset? His voice was soft, familiar like every other night. I kept my tone steady, just like usual. It's been a while since Jennifer came over. I kind of miss her. Dylan's arm stiffened just for a second. You know how she always following her whims. She said something about wanting to go horseback riding on the prairie the other day. She's probably in New Zealand by now. I smiled faintly, as if I wasn't carefully calculating every word. You and Jennifer have always been so close, like siblings, for over a decade now. His hand around my waist twitched. Honestly, she's closer to you than me now. She's always been afraid of being alone, ever since we were kids. I turned slowly, facing him head-on, watching every flicker of emotion cross his face. Did you two meet when you were kids? Dylan paused a little too long before answering. Not exactly. We were classmates in middle school. Got close in the 9th grade. I tilted my head, my voice light but unyielding. Isn't 9th grade the age when people start catching feelings? But instead of that, you two became siblings. Something flickered in Dylan's gaze, a distant look, as if he was suddenly lost in some long-forgotten memory. His lips tugged into a faint, nostalgic smile. Connections between people are strange, he murmured. Some bonds just happen, it's all fate. If I hadn't seen the Lucky Stars box or those letters, maybe, just maybe, I would have believed him. I locked my eyes onto his. I took Zach to a toy store today. They were running a promotion, sign up for a membership, buy one get one free. I added your number, and the staff told me you're a diamond member. Dylan reached up, rubbing the back of his neck, a nervous habit. His gaze started, his words fumbling. Jennifer, she doesn't want her mom to know when she splurges on things, so she uses our number for the high purchases. I let out a soft, understanding laugh. Oh, that explains it. The clerk mentioned you've bought a ton of Barbie dolls. For a second, I thought you had a secret daughter out there. Beads of sweat dotted Dylan's hairline. His voice cracked, rushed. What are you talking about? It's not even summer yet. Why is it so hot in here? I'm gonna take a quick shower and we can talk after. He thought he was being smooth, thought his excuses were flawless, but I've known Dylan for over a decade. Every twitch, every glance, I've memorized them all. Scratching the back of his neck? A lie. Rushing to leave the room? Guilt. This wasn't some long-forgotten sibling bond. It was a current, ongoing affair, one that stretched longer than our relationship, our marriage, our so-called life together. As Dylan's phone lay carelessly on the desk, I picked it up, unlocked it with ease, and went straight to his chat with Jennifer. Just as I expected, notifications were muted, and the entire chat history was wiped clean, without hesitation. I typed a simple message, "I miss you." Jennifer's reply came almost instantly. "How much?" "You promised you wouldn't touch her while I was away. If I find out you lied, you're done." Damn it, I should have claimed you from the start. Then I wouldn't be sneaking around like some side chick. I was here first. I didn't blink. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before I sent another message, testing the waters. "Rachel knows about us." The screen showed typing, then stopped, started again and stopped. IT went on for a while before Jennifer finally sent back just 3 exclamation marks. What did she say? "She must hate me." What are you going to do? Is she going to call me? What should I say? I stared at her messages, her panic practically oozing through the screen, and yet, for the first time, I felt nothing no sympathy. No warmth. There was nothing cute about her frantic words, no trace of the girl I once adored like a sister. They betrayed me. They toyed with me. Them. I was just another pawn in their twisted little game. I typed one more message. "You always say you only realize what you've lost once it's gone. Jennifer, let's fix the circle we drew wrong. Let's complete it this time." I sent it, and then I watched. The screen flickered with typing. Again, then deleted, then typed, then deleted. After what felt like an eternity, her final message appeared. What did Rachel say? Did she curse me out? I almost laughed. Her first instinct wasn't to ask about Dylan. It was about me. My reaction, was I supposed to be touched by her concern, or should I just grieve the sick, twisted mess of a relationship we all found ourselves in? I didn't delete Jennifer's messages. I let them pile up, long paragraphs, frantic explanations, maybe even an essay, but I didn't read them. I didn't reply. When Dylan emerged from the bathroom, a robe loosely tied around his waist, I leaned in close, my voice soft and testing. I bought a new lace set. "Want to try it tonight?" His hand jerked to tighten the robe's belt. "Baby, I'm a bit tired these days. How about another night?" I watched him press his fingers to his temple, so dramatic, so fake. Without a word, I picked up my own robe and stepped into the bathroom. I knew no. I was certain that the time it would take me to shower was more than enough for Dylan to check his phone and see the messages. From the reckless days of being 18 to now, in our 30s, we spent over a decade together. I couldn't even picture us sitting down, red-faced and raw, having the conversation where everything was finally laid bare. Let it be like this. By the time I finished showering, the 3 of us would be done. But I had barely lathered the shampoo into my hair when Dylan's frantic knocking echoed through the bathroom. "Baby, listen to me. Please, if there's a misunderstanding." I didn't answer. The foam slowly dissolved under the water, the bubbles sliding away just like the years I thought we had built something real. Dylan kept talking, his voice muffled, desperate. I thought about Jennifer in 2014, the year she lost her hearing for a short while. Maybe I caught her deafness at this moment, because I couldn't hear anything Dylan was saying. Not the knocking, not the pleading, not the panicked. I just kept washing the soap from my hair, the sound of water drowning out everything except the silent scream rising in my chest. The tears I held back all day finally broke free, masked by the cascade of the shower. Dylan, what did he think I was to him? Jennifer, what did she take me for? In 2022, when the pandemic struck, Jennifer had a high fever, no medicine, no help. Dylan was abroad for work. I threw my crying child into my mother's arms, ignoring his sobs, and drove through the night to another city just to deliver Jennifer's medicine. I can still see her face through the glass door, eyes red-rimmed, voice weak over the video call. Was she crying because she was touched by my friendship, or because she felt guilty about betraying me, and Dylan calling me over and over again that night? Was he worried about me, or about whether Jennifer's fever had broken? Who can tell anymore? By the time the water finally ran clear, I was empty, like I'd washed away every last tear I had for them. I wrapped myself in my robe and opened the bathroom door. Dylan was crouched by the entrance, his head slowly lifting when he saw me. His eyes bloodshot and wild, looked up at me with the same nervous, desperate expression I remembered from high school. the same look he had when he once asked me, trembling, if we could apply to the same college. For a second, just a second, couldn't tell which version of Dylan was real, or maybe neither of them were. Maybe they both were just lies wrapped in different memories. I reached for the hairdryer, just like every night. Dylan automatically took it from me carefully, tenderly blowing my hair dry. Like nothing had changed, but then I felt it. A single, scorching tear landed on my cheek. Another. Dylan's hand shook, his other wiping furiously at his face, but the tears wouldn't stop. His sobs grew louder until he finally had to switch off the hairdryer and collapse onto the floor, crying like a child. I stood there, silent, watching. After a moment, I picked up the hairdryer again, turning it back on. I dried my own hair this time. When I was done, I went to the sink, cupped some water in my hands, and slowly, methodically, washed the spot on my face where Dylan's tears had fallen, because it felt dirty. Dylan trailed behind me, step for step. Baby, I can explain. Explain? I turned around, my voice cold. Dylan, did you have fun making a fool out of me? Stringing me along like some idiot? His voice broke with a choked sob. I'm sorry. We never meant to hurt you. We. After more than 10 years together, in the end, Dylan and Jennifer were always a team. I finally asked the question that had been haunting me. You two have known each other since middle school. You had feelings for each other. So why not just be together? Why sneak around? Was the thrill of cheating what made it exciting? Or were you playing some twisted, forbidden game where I was just the unfortunate loser? Dylan suddenly surged forward, pulling me into his arms. No, baby, no, it's not like that. I shoved him off me. Then what is it, Dylan? Explain it to me. Tell me why the last 10 years of my life have been a joke. In our second year together, you kissed her. Why? What did you get out of it? When I gave birth to Zach, when I nearly died in that delivery room because of one phone call from her, you left me and our son behind. Dylan, don't you think you're disgusting? His face twisted, fear turning into frustration. Rachel, I admit Jennifer and I made mistakes. But that doesn't give you the right to slander her. Slander? He still had the audacity to turn this on me. I stared at him, at those eyes pretending to be sincere. Then I grabbed his arm and dragged him into the study. Without hesitation, I grabbed the jar filled with paper stars and smashed it to the ground. Dylan lunged forward to catch it, but he was too late. The stars scattered across the floor, spilling out like a decade's worth of secrets. You're mad so you take it out on these? Mad, I knelt down, picked up one of the stars, unfolded it, and read it aloud. On the mountaintop, Dylan watched the sunrise. I watched Dylan. My little secret joy. August 23rd, 2015. Dylan's face paled as he read the words. Jennifer told me she folded these for you and Zach, but she was actually keeping a memory for herself? I never opened a single one. His expression was full of regret, not for me, but for ignoring Jennifer's hidden affections all these years. A ringing noise filled my ears, my breath coming short. I couldn't let this absurdity stand. My voice sharpened like a blade. 2015, that year, I was an intern. My boss harassed me. I called you in tears, begging you to come. You told me you were on a business trip. And now I find out you were watching the sunrise with her. Dylan flinched. His face blanked for a second before he sighed. I really was on a business trip. Jennifer happened to be traveling there too. I just kept her company. I didn't think she rage swallowed the rest of his words. I crushed the stars beneath my feet, grinding them down until they were nothing but crumpled paper. Until my fury had nowhere left to go, and I collapsed onto a chair, breathless. When did I become someone who fought with paper stars? Dylan knelt beside me, carefully picking them up. If you're mad, take it out on me. But these Jennifer spent years making them. How could you just destroy them? Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the keyboard from his desk and swung it straight at his head. Who really destroyed whose heart first? Blow after blow, I didn't stop until blood trickled down Dylan's forehead. Until my arms trembled from exhaustion. Until the rage finally burned itself out, the keyboard hit the floor with a hollow clatter. Dylan, for over a decade, no matter what you and Jennifer felt, I gave you both my full trust. My love, I owed you nothing. If you have even a shred of decency left, leave. Take nothing. Let's end this with some dignity. Dylan pressed a hand against his bleeding head. He closed his eyes for a long moment, then exhaled. You gave 10 years of your life. But do you think Jennifer and I didn't? I laughed, bitter and hollow. He looked at me, gaze dark. Do you know how much Jennifer suffered for your sake? Do you know what she gave up? You had the title. You had Zach. Jennifer had nothing. And with that, he turned and slammed the door behind him. I stood frozen, staring at the empty space where he had been. Since the moment I discovered the truth, I had been shocked. I had been in denial. I had lashed out, but only now watching Dylan walk away did it finally sink in. I had spent more than a decade loving a lie. I started questioning everything. Every glance. Every touch. Every word. Had they ever truly looked at me? Or was I just another pawn in their little game? I wasn't just disappointed in them. I was disappointed in myself. Was I ever worthy of real love? I turned, opened the safe, and pulled out everything of value. Then I packed every single thing that belonged to me and Zach. I called the moving company, and just before I left, I took off the ring I had worn for over 10 years. It was made from a coin gift from Dylan when we were 18. Back then, he had blushed when he gave it to me. This ring isn't worth much, he'd said, voice shaking. But it holds all the love I have to give. And I had worn it ever since. Even after we got married, I had never taken it off. But now, I finally understood. Dylan's love had never been a 10 out of 10. It had always been out of 100. And I was done settling for anything less than whole. Jennifer had sent me countless messages. I didn't open a single one. I blocked her without hesitation. But she wasn't done. She showed up at my workplace. I in the cafe downstairs. She sat across from me. Her left hand gripped her right wrist tightly, and her leg under the table wouldn't stop shaking. A nervous habit of hers, one I knew all too well. When she noticed me staring, she picked up her coffee. Her hand trembled, and the cup tipped, spilling dark liquid all over her pristine white dress. She didn't even glance at the stain. Rachel, I never meant to take Dylan away from you. I nodded, watching her spin her story. Her hand flew to her face, fingers splayed over her eyes, but the tears still seeped through. I thought what Dylan and I had was just a silly teenage crush. But after all these years, there's been no one else. No one but him. The more she spoke, the more nauseous I felt. Without a word, I picked up my coffee and threw the entire cup at her. Hot liquid splashed across her face, her hair, her already ruined dress. Still not tired of acting after all these years? I asked calmly. Jennifer wiped the coffee from her face, her hands shaking, not from nerves this time. Rachel, we've been friends for so long. Does it really have to come to this? Friends, she dared to talk about friendship after everything she did behind my back. Save your twisted idea of friendship for Dylan, I said coldly. Jennifer's eyes reddened, her lips trembling like she was the one who had been wronged. I grabbed the second cup of coffee and dumped it over her again. Spare me the helpless victim act. I'm not falling for it. 2 cups of coffee later, Jennifer finally dropped the mask. Rachel, she said through gritted teeth, let me be honest with you. If I hadn't walked away from Dylan back then, you wouldn't even be part of the picture. Do you really think he would have married you if I hadn't stepped aside? You were just the girl who gave me candy when I took bitter medicine. That's the only reason I let him go. Out of guilt for you. Coffee dripped from her hair onto the table, but her eyes puffy and bloodshot held nothing but resentment. So what you're saying is, I should be grateful for your sacrifice? Grateful that even when I was bleeding out in a hospital room giving birth, you still had to drag Dylan away from me. Jennifer let out a sharp, bitter laugh. I endured so much. I held back so many times. The only moments I ever reached out to Dylan were when I just couldn't bear missing him anymore. And you, her voice cracked, you couldn't even spare me a shred of sympathy. Sympathy? I didn't know whether to laugh or call for help because clearly Jennifer wasn't just delusional. She was unhinged. So let me get this straight, I said. I was only with Dylan because you were gracious enough to step aside, and I'm supposed to feel bad for you. Her face twisted when she saw my icy expression. Grabbing her back, she stood. If my patience means nothing to you, then fine. From now on, Rachel, you'll see for yourself. Dylan will have to choose between me and you. She straightened her spine, chin held high, and stormed out of the cafe. I stayed seated, silent. For a long time, I didn't move. What kind of backwards logic was this? She broke up my marriage, but because she didn't force Dylan to divorce me, I was supposed to see her as a friend. If that's what she calls friendship, I wish we had never met. After Jennifer's so-called declaration of war, she began flaunting her relationship with Dylan online. All the evidence I gathered of Dylan's affair, she turned it into proof of their undying love, proudly posting it on short video platforms. She even pinned a video at the top of her profile. The video was a simple transition between two images. The first, a yellowed piece of paper with a boyish promise scrawled across it. One day, I'll buy Jennifer lots and lots of Barbie dolls, so she'll never envy anyone again. The second, pile of Barbie dolls stacked high. Jennifer's caption read, "A promise from our youth, still kept to this day." The video blew up, racking up over 1 million likes. Comments poured in, people swooning over their so-called fairy tale romance. Some girl even tagged her boyfriend, saying, "Baby, you'll treat me like this one day too, right?" The whole thing snowballed. Marketing accounts jumped on the trend, gushing about how they believe in love again. Then Jennifer slyly posted another update. "I'm confident that no matter when or where, I will always be his first choice." I took screenshots of everything, every post, every comment, and I consulted my lawyer asking which of these would be most useful when fighting for Zach's custody or splitting the assets. While Jennifer's online buzz kept building, I reached out to Dylan. It was time to settle the divorce. "You're leaving with nothing," I told him. "The house, the car, the savings, and Zachary, all mine." Dylan stared at me like I was a stranger. "Rachel, when did you become like this? This is the difference between you and Jennifer. Even now, all Jennifer cares about are those silly Barbie dolls. But you," he scoffed, "it's always about Zach's school district, our parents' retirement plans, even my damn career path." I clenched my fists, looking at him, this man I had spent over a decade with. I couldn't believe how pathetic he had become, but none of that mattered. All I needed now was for him to walk away empty-handed. Once I had Zach and the money, I'd make sure he and Jennifer paid for everything. "You have one day, Dylan," I said. "One day to decide. If you refuse, I promise I'll make sure you and Jennifer are utterly destroyed." Dylan said Jennifer only cared about those Barbie dolls from their teenage years. Barbie dolls. She spent years being the other woman for what? For a broken promise from a boy, for a pile of plastic toys, and she had the nerve to flaunt it online. Begging for strangers' validation. How starved for love does someone have to be to feed off scraps of affection from their rival? How insecure must she be to rush to the internet, trying to prove their twisted love story to the world? But I wasn't here for childish fantasies. Let Jennifer cling to her Barbies. I take the things that really matter: money, security, Zach, because those were real, and Dylan owed me every last bit of it. Dylan agreed to the divorce. When we walked out of the divorce registry, Jennifer was sitting in the passenger seat, rolling down the window. "Rachel, we don't owe you anything anymore." I clutched the divorce certificate, not saying a word. Whether they owed me or not, that wasn't for them to decide. That evening, I posted the evidence I had meticulously prepared online, from the moment I discovered Dylan's affair to the proof I gathered. Even the evidence of his mistress flaunting their love during our marriage, everything was up there. I spent a small fortune on promotion. I didn't mention Jennifer at all in my post, but sharp-eyed netizens quickly noticed the overlap between the evidence of Dylan's affair and the videos Jennifer had posted, showing off her love. Someone commented under my video, "Wasn't the fairy tale love everyone was raving about actually your husband and his mistress?" I simply replied, "Ex-husband." That comment set off a storm. The flood of reactions came in fast. The fairy tale romance was actually an affair? Sweetheart, how could you be this oblivious? Over 10 years. Don't even talk about it, my heart aches for you. I'm going straight to bash those two shameless jerks. Eager netizens jumped from my video to Jennifer's. They saw the same handwriting, the same storyline, and my comment about my ex-husband. Those who had been moved by their so-called fairy tale romance felt like they had bitten into a rotten apple and were disgusted. Wow, they're not even divorced, and she's already flaunting their love? Can't wait to give everyone the evidence. Trashy man, trashy woman. You've ruined good people's lives. The mistress has no right to talk about love. Marketing accounts, always chasing the heat, wasted no time in questioning online. Is this fairy tale romance real love, or just years of cheating? Over a decade of being the mistress? That's terrifying when you think about it. Dylan was frantic, demanding I take everything down. He even said that if our mutual friends or colleagues saw the video, or if it got to their superiors, it would cause him serious trouble. He begged me, for Zach's sake, can you spare me some dignity? I laughed coldly and posted another video, this one 5 minutes long, combining Dylan's order for Barbie dolls with my own struggles to save money while living paycheck to paycheck. I made sure to include everything as VIP membership at the toy store. And the fact that he hadn't bought Zach a single toy since his birth. I couldn't have a peaceful divorce, not after all the years of betrayal, lies, and him trampling on my loved. My wounds couldn't heal until he suffered more than I did. They both had to pay. Otherwise, this anger would never leave my heart. Seeing that I wasn't backing down, Jennifer went live. In front of the camera, she covered her face, letting the tears slip through her fingers. She sat in silence for a long time before sobbing and starting her tale. Dylan and I met in middle school. We promised to be together after the college entrance exam. But Rachel relentlessly pursued Dylan in high school. At the time, her parents had divorced, and she was mildly depressed. To help her focus on her studies, Dylan told her that if they went to the same university, they could be together. Later, I didn't get into the university, but Dylan and Rachel did. When I repeated the year, I was angry that Dylan and Rachel were at the same school, so I started seeing other guys. I didn't expect that it would give Rachel the chance to steal Dylan. The live stream audience wasn't going to let her off easy. So, did Dylan get together with Rachel first? Are you the one who broke up their relationship? Wow, what a fresh story. Dylan's just as trashy as you. If you can get together with someone out of spite, he'll probably make you wear the green hat one day. No matter how you spin it, Rachel was with Dylan first. You were the one who destroyed their relationship. Someone, possibly an insider, fired back in the live chat. Dylan and Rachel's relationship was legendary. When Rachel had an emergency appendectomy in the middle of the night, Dylan ran through the streets, carrying her to get a taxi. Rachel said she loved cake, and Dylan spent 2 hours every morning getting it for her. You say that was love? You really think that's love? Watching these past events unfold in the live chat, Jennifer completely broke down. No, Dylan has always loved me. If I hadn't let Rachel be with him, I would have been the one to marry Dylan. The comments flooded in, calling her out. What a fool. Rachel got caught up with you two idiots. I feel so sorry for her. The live chat turned into chaos and things didn't go as Jennifer had hoped. Everyone turned on her and Dylan, and in the end, she quickly ended the live stream, humiliated. Seeing Jennifer being ridiculed all over the internet, I took the opportunity to send everything about Dylan's affair, which had caused such a stir online, to his boss. For all these years, Dylan had been content with just having a stable job, thinking that was enough to guarantee him a comfortable life, as if he was already in early retirement. When I almost died giving birth to our child, he was still with Jennifer. Why did he think he deserved peace for the rest of his life? Within 2 days, Dylan was reassigned to a poverty-stricken area. I looked up the location on the map and saw that it would take 34 hours by car to get there. I couldn't help but laughed. I wonder if Jennifer, with her unshakable love, will follow Dylan there. But that was none of my concern anymore. I put all my energy into work and Zach. I was promoted to the company's second in command. I sold everything Dylan and I had bought together, the house, the car, all of it. With the money from the sale, I bought a large flat for myself and Zach. I no longer had to worry about Dylan's parents or his poor stomach. constantly thinking about making soup for him. I started taking Zach out into nature, participating in various fun parent-child activities. In my free time, I'd watch dramas, eat good food, and my life became rich and comfortable. Occasionally, mutual friends would share updates about Dylan and Jennifer's life. After Dylan was reassigned, Jennifer also quit her job and followed him to the remote area. But the conditions there were poor, and Jennifer remained as delicate and spoiled as ever. With the hard work and no one to help with laundry and cooking, Dylan had to do everything himself. He was utterly exhausted. Faced with Jennifer's constant whining, he was at his wit's end, resenting the fact that Jennifer had flaunted their love so publicly online, leaving him with all the evidence I needed to expose them. Jennifer hadn't expected that without me in the picture, Dylan would have even less patience for her. Their arguments became more frequent and intense, and at their worst, they even resorted to physical violence. I occasionally heard about their lives, and when I found out they were struggling, I felt a little relieved. I thought I would never have anything to do with them again until one day I went to pick up Zach from kindergarten. The new teacher was flushed and nervous. Zach just rushed over and called out, "Daddy." I thought it was his dad coming to pick him up. My mind went blank. I pulled out my phone, ready to call the police. Then I heard Zach's loud voice calling, "Mom," and my heart finally relaxed. "Mom." Daddy took me to eat pizza. Then he bought me fried chicken and burgers, and I got my favorite soda. "Mom, I'm so happy." Zach threw himself into my arms, sharing his joy with me. I took him by the hand and seriously reminded the teachers, "If anyone else comes to pick up Zach, please call me first to confirm." Dylan, holding Zach's hand, whispered to him, "So, when Mom said someone else, she meant me, huh?" I couldn't be bothered with Dylan's fake cute act. After confirming that the teachers had received my instructions, I took Zach and left the kindergarten. Dylan followed closely behind. I walked quickly to the parking lot, put Zach in his car seat, and had my mom, who had been waiting in the car, take him away. Then I turned to confront Dylan. "What exactly do you want?" "Zach's custody was granted to me. You have no right to take him without my permission." Dylan grabbed my arm. "Rachel, I was wrong. Let's be a family of 3 and live happily together. I swear I'll never hurt you again. Please, for Zach's sake, give me a chance." I shook his hand off forcefully. "What kind of dream are you having? We're divorced. Who would want to be a family of 3 with you? With a cheating scumbag like you, I'm afraid Zach will end up just like you. The best thing we can do is never cross paths again." Dylan's eyes turned red. "Rachel, think about the more than 10 years we spent together. How can you bear to throw it all away? We made promises." Back then, I interrupted him immediately. "Stop. Don't mention that disgusting past. Every word you say makes me want to vomit." As we argued, Jennifer rushed over, her eyes red. "Dylan." "Rachel, how can you two be so shameless?" "Rachel, I'm Dylan's girlfriend now. What gives you the right to be with him?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Well, that's not my problem. Your boyfriend acts like a dog, trying to please me and Zach. You can't even keep your dog on a leash, and now you're blaming me." Jennifer glared at Dylan. "I fought so hard to bring you back, and this is how you repay me?" Dylan pushed Jennifer away roughly. "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost my wife. You, this promiscuous woman, saying how much you sacrificed for me. Have you been sitting idle all these years?" Jennifer, unwilling to back down, grabbed her handbag and threw it at Dylan. I couldn't help but clap. The two started fighting, and I picked up my phone, filmed the scene, did a quick edit, and posted it online. The group of netizens who had once been invested in their drama hadn't forgotten about them. When they saw the video of their fight, they immediately left comments. "Is this what happens when a trashy romance meets real life? Watching the scumbag and the shameless woman fight it out." Honestly, if Rachel hadn't gotten together with that scumbag, these two animals might not have been so tangled up for so long. All this talk about old feelings, but it's just possession. They can't even handle each other when they finally get together. Lock them up. Dylan and Jennifer couldn't see the online comments, but I watched their chaos with amusement, as if it fueled them even more. Dylan snatched Jennifer's bag and threw it into the moat. Jennifer, eyes bloodshot, screamed, "I've wasted so many years on you. My career, my reputation gone. And you think you can turn your life around? Dream on." Jennifer picked up a brick from the ground and smashed it into Dylan's head. The blow was strong enough that Dylan immediately collapsed to the ground, clutching his head and cursing at Jennifer. "You're crazy. Jennifer, you're insane. If you need love, go find your mom. Stop pestering me like a locust." It was just like the time I furiously smashed Dylan with my keyboard. The only difference was, a brick hits a lot harder than a keyboard. Watching Jennifer descend into madness, I immediately called the police. Dylan didn't survive the hospital emergency treatment, and Jennifer was arrested on the spot. As a witness, I cooperated with the investigation. In the end, Jennifer was sentenced for intentional homicide. Before the police took her away, Jennifer looked at me despondently. "Are you satisfied now?" "Satisfied?" I couldn't be more satisfied. Those who betray true love deserve to die.